Hey, welcome to the Ready to Lose podcast, where we look at what's going on in our brains to create the health and weight loss that we want. My name's Billy Blake, and I'm a certified life and weight loss coach determined to help women love themselves all the way to their goal. It's time to start losing weight in a way that actually feels like us and creating that healthy life that we love showing up for every single day. So tell me, are you ready to lose? Let's go. Hey, ready babes. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have a question for you, and your answer to this question is probably going to reveal why you are or why you are not losing weight right now. You're here because you want to lose weight, right? You want to be healthier. You have other dreams and goals that you're going after. And this one thing, your weight, your relationship with food, it's that one thing that feels like it's in your way. Like you can't quite figure it out no matter how many times you try. So the question I want to ask you today is, do you have the capacity to feel hunger in your body? Not the ability. Although some of you might think that you don't have that either. Not the ability, the capacity. Those two things are very different. You are all very capable of feeling hunger and learning how to listen to it in order to lose weight. But what you might not have is the capacity for it yet. And this is important to understand because a lot of women come to me believing that they are just not capable of listening to their body, of listening to their hunger cues. They'll say things like, I just can't handle being hungry. I don't even have hunger signals. I always give in. It's just too much for me. But that's actually not true. Every single person is capable of learning this. Your body is designed to give you these signals and these cues. You might not have the skill yet, but you can absolutely learn it. That is the problem, is a lot of us are not taught this in the first place, but you are capable of learning the skill. You can learn it. The problem isn't really your capability of doing this. I know that you're capable of doing this. The problem is that capacity piece, because feeling hunger requires you to feel uncomfortable sensations in your body and to let them exist without immediately solving for them with food. And most of us haven't really practiced that before. And no wonder, side note here, we think about what we learned growing up. None of us really learned how to feel our emotions. Can't remember when they taught us that in school, We're not learning how to feel our emotions, how to live with them, how to exist with them. We're usually taught, if anything, we're taught they're a problem and we should stop crying and stop feeling bad so everyone else can feel better. And then we learn to deal with them with food from a lot of other people because that's what everyone else is doing with food. Most of us haven't practiced actually letting ourselves feel hungry. So you have the ability, but not the capacity yet. And the good news is that your capacity is also not fixed. Just like you are very capable, you can always learn a skill even if you don't have it yet. You also, as a human, have this ability to expand your capacity, what you are able to handle and withstand in your life. You can build it, you can grow it, right? And when you do, that is when everything you've been trying to lose weight, trying to learn, trying to do, learning here on the podcast even, that is when you'll actually see it start working. So where this really came up, I was thinking about this a lot during Hungry Girl Bootcamp. A few weeks ago, we wrapped up our 8-week group coaching program for hunger cues, Hungry Girl Bootcamp. And while we were doing this work of learning about our hunger cues, practicing them each week, and working through the obstacles that get in the way when it comes to listening to your hunger, which are emotions, cravings, mindless eating habits, I asked the women in this group the exact same question. Do you have the capacity to feel hunger in your body? And over those 8 weeks, it was really cool because I got to see them do this in a very concentrated setting. Like that was all we were working on were hunger cues. So at the start, in week 1, it felt extremely hard. Some women were practicing listening to their hunger cues at 1 meal a day. Some were just checking in with hunger cues and they weren't even really following them. They were just checking in with where they were at. And that was just perfect. That was exactly where they needed to be to start. They were starting to build that skill and they were already starting to expand their capacity. So by week 8, these women were letting cravings exist without immediately eating for them. They were letting their emotions be there in their body. They knew how to sit with them instead of escaping them with food. They were changing their behaviors at their meals so much that other people in their lives were noticing. They were dealing with their lives in a completely different way because they had built their capacity to feel hunger in their body, but also their capacity to feel their lives, experience their lives without food covering it up. And that was just really freaking cool to see. Let me give you another example though. One of my one-to-one clients is working on hunger cues right now. We were talking through her food plan for the day on our call and, talking through what might get in the way of showing up for that. And she said something really interesting. She said, well, if I get hungry on the way home from work, I might eat something off plan and then ruin my dinner. And the way she said it, it was like hunger and that decision to eat something was completely out of her control. She said things like, I won't be able to handle it. And then she really said the words that really stuck out to me were when she started talking about the problem, she said, I hope I make it. Well, here's what I'm planning to do today. I hope I make it. Huh? What do you mean you hope you make it? What's going to happen? And that something was, I might get hungry. So I hope I can make it. Like hunger was some kind of emergency that she wouldn't be able to handle. But what we realized in that conversation was that she just hasn't built that capacity for hunger yet. She believed that if she felt hungry, she would automatically lose control. So I asked her a question. I said, what if you could just decide that you were going to make it? What if you could decide right now that you could handle hunger on your way home for dinner? And y'all, she did. She made it all the way to her date night dinner with her husband without snacking. Nothing dramatic happened. She didn't spiral. It did feel a little uncomfortable, but she did not lose control. She just felt hunger, reminded herself that she can handle this. It's not an emergency. She still has the power to choose. And she kept going. And that moment, that decision increased her capacity just a little bit. So for many of you listening, you might have a similar fear. You think if I get too hungry, I'm going to be out of control. It's going to feel too awful. I won't be able to handle it. But what if you could simply decide that you are willing to feel hungry sometimes? You want to be someone who can handle hunger. You could decide to do that, just like she decided she was going to make it to the end of her day without eating off plan. That's where it starts, is with one simple decision. For the women in Hungry Girl Boot Camp, that decision was signing up. They decided they were committed to figuring this out. No more I want to, but, or that would be nice, or I hope I can someday. No. They decided. And I do want to emphasize that language because that's how I would talk about my weight loss goals a lot. I'm like, hopefully I get to the gym this year. I would set it as one of my New Year's resolutions. I'm like, hopefully that actually happens. What? I hadn't built my capacity to do that, to show up for that commitment, right? I just kept like hoping and wishing that maybe I would change. And no wonder, because I was deep down believing that I couldn't. It felt too scary, too uncomfortable to push myself out of that comfort zone. So you could just decide, I am going to figure this out. For the women in Hungry Girl Boot Camp, they said that, they did that, and then they did. And there's something interesting. I talked about this on Instagram a couple weeks ago when I was going through this with Hungry Girl Boot Camp. When you build your capacity for hunger, it actually is hard to go back. Like once you build that capacity, you're like, I am capable of feeling this. I know what it feels like. I know what my life is like when I do this. It's actually way harder to go back to those old habits. And so even thinking about myself with my own hunger cues way back before I did this, a lot of what I grew up doing and learning was to clean my plate, always, I'm a bigger eater, or like I always clean my plate. I always am getting more food. I'm not a picky eater, all these kind of like language things that built into this belief of who I was with food. Same with like, I always have something sweet before bed, always have ice cream before bed, that kind of stuff. There's always room for dessert. Okay, all of these things. So it was really uncomfortable and hard to start listening to my hunger cues. But once I did, I was like, oh, actually, and I'm not saying it's impossible to go back. Like there are so many reasons why we fall back into old eating habits. But for the most part, I was like, oh, I know that I ate too much and that doesn't feel good. It becomes way harder to go back to where you were. Because with so many of our clients find, what I found is that when you start listening to your hunger cues regularly, you feel so much better physically. You're not as bloated. You have more energy. You can eat a meal and then go back to living your life instead of needing a nap. And your brain does get quieter around food the more you do this. You think about food less. You trust yourself more as your capacity grows. One client recently, a different client, she was telling me that she overate and she felt really uncomfortable. And then she asked me, she goes, what's wrong with me? Which I thought was an interesting question. We coached a lot on this. Don't you worry. But I don't want to get into that here. She just asked this question though of what's wrong with me that overeating feels worse for me than it seems to for other people? Why do I feel so uncomfortable while other people don't? And like I said, I thought that was a funny question. We had words about that, okay? But the answer though, I did answer it for her and I'm going to answer it for you, is that for her, she was just really used to listening to her hunger cues, especially not eating past enough. She was really used to doing that. So when she does eat too much, her body really notices it. And like I said, when I first started losing weight, I was not listening to my hunger cues at all. Hunger cues, what? What were those? What do you mean? I was deliberately picking diets where they told me I could eat as much of special foods as I wanted, as much food as I wanted, because I didn't believe I could not do that. I was finishing food because it was there, because it tasted good. And yeah, I definitely did notice that I felt full sometimes, but it's nothing like what I experience now. I truly didn't know what I didn't know. But as I started building my capacity for hunger, bit by bit, I became more aware of my body, and hunger stopped feeling like an emergency. And overeating started to feel a lot more obvious. And for this client in particular, we did explain it for her, because for her, she has lost a lot of weight. I think she's lost over 100 pounds, and a lot of that she actually lost before coming to Ready to Lose. She actually signed up for coaching. She knows who she is. She's listening. Signed up for coaching because of the circumstances of how she lost that weight, and she wants to be able to maintain it. And so that's a lot of the work we're doing, like listening to hunger cues. But for her and her history, there was a time where you didn't notice your hunger cues. She's like, oh yeah, you're right. That was a long time ago, but I did have that experience where I was really numb to a lot of things. I was numb to my emotions, and I was numb to how I was feeling with food. It doesn't feel like what I feel now. So again, it's not like she's blessed with being able to listen to her hunger cues so easily. She's already done that work of questioning how much food she needs. And now it does feel very uncomfortable, but she just kind of forgot that it used to not feel that way. So many of us do that too. I'm always reminding people where they started when they start coaching, because the real thing that happens with weight loss, when you're doing it in a doable, sustainable way, as your capacity grows for all of the skills and all of the things we learned here, is that as your capacity grows, it actually just starts to feel normal, right? It feels normal to not overeat. It feels harder to feel really full than it does to not. And it just feels normal. And so I just had to remind her that, hey, you also used to not notice when you were eating too much. She's like, oh yeah, that's true. So it wasn't something that was just wrong with her. It just depends on what your capacity is. So I want to give you another example, another way of thinking about it. And this is an example I've used a lot with clients in the past. And I think I've even used it here on the podcast before, but I compare where you're at with your weight, especially that range where you're just stuck. You're stuck going up and down the same 5 pounds, that same 5-pound range you're in. And I like to compare it to a thermostat. Like right now, you are set to a certain weight, okay? That is where your brain feels comfortable. It's where your habits naturally bring you back to. So for me, that used to be 155, okay? I would go up and down a little, but I always came back to that number. And it was so frustrating because when I was actively trying to lose weight, that white knuckle kind of way, I'm like, I'm going to calorie count, I'm going to, cut out sweets, whatever, I'm going to exercise a lot. As soon as I stopped doing that, right, because I ran out of willpower, I would bounce right back to that number. I'm like, what the heck? Why can't I figure this out? If I dipped down, like I was trying to lose weight, I would always come back to that number. If I gained weight though, too, that's the other thing. When I started gaining a little weight, I often would come back to that number too. So even though I knew the things to do, I hadn't mentally prepared to get there and stay there. So I would start losing weight and then I would sabotage myself. Sometimes that looked like the scale going down and I would think something like, oh, I can take a break, or I deserve to celebrate. I deserve a reward. I've been working so hard. Or if I wasn't perfect, I had a meal that wasn't aligned with my diet, whatever diet I was doing, I would turn that one off-plan meal into an off-plan week or month, depending on where I was at mentally and emotionally with that. Or I would just start telling myself, I'm seeing the success. Oh, but it's so hard. It's going to be so hard to keep going. I can't do it. I would just argue for why I wasn't capable of it. And my brain would just freak out because I hadn't built the capacity to live at that lower weight yet. And this happens a lot with hunger cues. People start checking in with their hunger cues. They lose a few pounds. Okay, I'm going to start listening to these hunger cues. Billy said to do it. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm deciding to feel hungry today a little bit. And they lose some weight. And then things start to slow down or they stall and they think, why isn't this working anymore? My body must be working against me. What's wrong with me that this stopped working? But what's happening is actually very simple. They just need to check in again. They got used to being at this place, where they're at now. They got to set the thermostat a little lower, increase their capacity a little more. Because weight loss is always going to come down to your beliefs about yourself and your food. What are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself that losing weight is going to be miserable? Are you telling yourself you need to eat at certain times because that's what you've always done? That's what we've been taught to do. Are you willing to question those patterns? A big one is honestly breakfast. I was always eating breakfast because that's what I should do. That's what everyone tells me to do. And it's actually unhealthy if you don't eat breakfast, whatever. But I was never hungry for breakfast. That was one of the first areas where I was like, you know what? I'm going to decide to wait for hunger in the morning. I think I could do that. And most of the time that meant skipping breakfast. And so that's just one example of that. I'm not saying, skipping breakfast has to be your thing, but what things are you hanging on to and thinking that you couldn't possibly change because it's just what you've always done? So whether you're thinking about this as increasing your capacity or lowering your thermostat, ask yourself this question. What is the next thing that would move me into that next 5-pound range? Because that's how we're always thinking about weight loss, right? For me, it was always like, if only I could get below 150 and stay there. And then it was and then if I could get below 145 and then 140. So for you, whatever that next 5-pound range is, what would get you there? What is the version of you, that version of you who's in that next range? What is she doing differently? What are you doing differently there? Because that version of you is doing something different. She's not arguing with her body, telling herself that it's working against her and it doesn't want her to lose weight. She's definitely not doing that. She's not white-knuckling her way down there, thinking about the day she finally reaches that goal and can eat Chick-fil-A. She's not doing those things. She's learning how to trust herself with food. She's building her capacity. She's building her belief and ability to hold that result. And if you want to take your weight loss journey to that next level, that is exactly what we do inside Ready to Lose Coaching. You get weekly coaching with me, and I teach you how to become that version of yourself. If you want to lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, that's what we do in coaching. You don't need another diet. You need to increase your capacity to feel hunger and make intentional decisions with food. And it's not just hunger, right? Hunger is one piece of this equation that feels uncomfortable for a lot of us to let in. We think it's a big problem. We've been taught it's a big problem. So many things even marketed now are selling the story that yes, your hunger is a problem and we've got a medicine for that. Hunger is not a problem. It's normal. We don't always have to react to it. You don't. But whether it's hunger, sometimes it's our emotions. I can't deal with this because I'm bored. I'm looking for something entertaining to do, or I don't know how to comfort myself without food. Whatever it is, we want to build your capacity really to experience your life without leaning on food. So if that's something you want to do, sign up for a free session with the link in the show notes. And until next week, remember, you've totally got this. Build your capacity a little bit this week, okay? Decide that you can make it till dinner. I think you can. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you for taking time today to listen in. If this helped you at all, be sure to share it with a friend so she can stop feeling stuck and start creating the health and self-love she deserves. Or post it to social media and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping me get the message out. I am so excited to be on this journey with you. Keep showing up for you. You'll get there. Talk to you soon.